I did do some research about why Disney is restricting MCU movies.
It's because the last ones have been pretty not well received.
Yeah, and I think the problem is unfortunately, like, they really. I was about to say something inappropriate, but I'll change it to be appropriate for our family viewers. They really jumped the shark. They jumped the shark.
Yeah.
When it comes to like how to do their Marvel movies, like I don't know how you can really top Endgame, right? And now they've got to go in and they've got to top Endgame, and it's difficult. And I don't know if you guys saw, but Robert Downey Jr. is it's not a spoiler, anybody, but Robert Downey Jr. is returning to MCU as Doctor Doom. Which is, it's going to be interesting to see how he's Doctor Doom. I'm sure we'll see it in the Fantastic Four movie that's supposed to be coming up.
Just as simple as, alternate reality, Tony Stark and his life went weird.
Yeah, they're really...
They got the Fantastic Four movie coming out, which I think is supposed to be kind of retro and may take place in the past. And it's not going to surprise me if we see a version of Howard Stark in that movie and something happens between him and Reed Richards, and that's why Tony Stark turns into Doctor Doom. I was thinking about this.
Well, I think
they'll set it up. I'll bet they'll set it up in the Fantastic Four movie. I bet they'll lay the groundwork for why he's Doctor Doom in the Fantastic Four movie that's coming out.
And I think they were saying, like, he's not Tony Stark. He is actually Victor Von Doom.
He's not going to be some variant?
I mean,
Tony Stark that just goes by Victor Von Doom because they moved to Latveria after Reed Richards shamed Howard Stark into running away.
They already explained away, like, how in Deadpool, like, how some actors are playing different characters, like Chris Evans.
Chris Evans
is
in the same universe, though.
Well,
they're explaining, like, the whole
he's absolutely right.
Chris Evans was playing the Human Torch, Johnny Storm,
from the Fox universe. And he was
also Steve Rogers, and so like
he was
in the
this
MCU.
Robert Downey Jr. who is like looking like Victor Von Doom. He comes from he's coming from the universe that they're creating for the Fantastic Four, and I think
I see where you're going, AC.
I think they're just saying like, hey, we just like Robert Downey Jr. and why wouldn't you not want to see him play?
And Robert Downey Jr. is like, I like $100 million. So
That's the big thing is like they probably played him.
I need to put my grandkids through college.
Yeah. Hoybit, welcome to it. Thanks for joining us.
And I, personally, I don't care.
I've got no objections to it. I'm down to see him play a villain.
I think he's like such a good actor. Like once he's on screen, like you won't care.
It's not going to matter.
My youngest asked me today, because we were actually talking about this, and he asked me today, he was like, when has Robert Downey Jr. ever played a villain? And I was trying to think back, and I was trying to, the mind IMDb in my head. And all I could say was, I was like, I think the last time Robert Downey Jr. played a villain was in Weird Science.
Yeah, he was.
But he was only the bully. He was only the bully.
He wasn't really a villain. He was kind of just like a pathetic guy in Natural Born Killers.
This article says in 1998 he was Special Agent John Royce in U.S. Marshals, a villain. I never saw it. He was Dr. Kozak in The Shaggy Dog in 2006. He was a nefarious scientist. Dr. Kozak?
That Shaggy Dog?
Oh, that movie Zodiac 2007. Right before Iron Man.
Oh.
Right before Iron Man.
Okay. Yeah. Was he the Zodiac Killer?
Let's see.
The story of the Zodiac Killer.
The killer plays Mission of Police. I can't tell.
I thought that was the whole point of that movie, is they never find out who it actually was.
Oh,
well, it's because we still don't know who the Zodiac Killer is.
It's Ted Cruz.
Natural Born Killers in 94.
I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, and and the Zodiac killer's still yet to be found. But
Yeah. They list him as a villain in Oppenheimer. He was the antagonist for sure, but I feel like villain's a stretch for his role in Oppenheimer. He was.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of these
an antagonist. So
yeah, and even in Weird Science, he was just an antagonist. He wasn't a villain.
I'm trying to remember him specifically in Weird Science.
He was the bully.
Yeah, it's just been so long though. I can't. I need an image. I need to jog my memory.
That's definitely one I haven't.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. I remember.
That's definitely one I haven't watched in a long time.
Bill Paxton was probably the villain of that movie, but Robert Downey Jr. was definitely an antagonist.
Yeah.
I just watched it the other day. That's why I know. My oldest stepson looks exactly like Anthony Michael Hall, so yeah, we've been watching a lot of Anthony Michael Hall movies just to tease him.
Yeah.
But in any case, I think he'll make a good Doctor Doom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got no objections to him coming back to MCU.
Yeah. Whether he is actually Victor Von Doom or like a corrupted Tony Stark, I think that's pretty cool.
I think I read that there's some comic storyline where Tony Stark does become Doom somehow. But I'm not. Don't quote me on that. I thought I read something, but I don't remember the details.
There's definitely been like comic storylines where Tony Stark turns evil.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just because, it's like when you think of like Doctor Doom, he is like a mad scientist dude.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that they're bringing Tony Stark back into not Tony Stark, but Robert Downey Jr.
You called him Tony.
Yeah, they're bringing Robert Downey Jr. into the MCU again as a different character, and not because AC. I don't know how many of the comics you read. Or even Mike, I don't know how many of the comics you've read, but at one point, Tony turned himself into an AI and uploaded himself into the internet, and then he created a new body for himself. And basically, so in the Marvel universe, there's a few of the superheroes that are called superhuman gods. And Magneto's one of them, and Professor X is one of them, Tony Stark is one of them, and there's these superhuman gods, and that was when Tony Stark, because he had brain cancer, so he uploaded his consciousness to the cloud. And
can't follow me here to the cloud.
Yeah, and I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they didn't bring him back with that.
Yeah.
Like,
those there are so many like variations of like, how like the characters die, but then they come back as something else.
Yeah,
I'm definitely not caught up on where the MCU is right now, or not the MCU. I mean, like the comic book universe. But they always come back. They always
pretty much all the Jesus-based characters have died and come back, and frankly, I'm sick of it.
One thing that I'm curious about the MCU is how they're going to introduce the X-Men.
They already did at the end of the Ms. Marvel movie.
True. They introduced.
I saw Beast. I saw Kelsey Grammer. Don't even tell me.
Well, yeah. Even before that, in the Ms. Marvel show, they were saying that.
Well, they said she's a mutant, but they didn't introduce the X-Men. But then they
because
showed the Beast.
And that's the thing is like they retconned her to be a mutant because originally she was supposed to be a what are the other guys?
All her power from the Bengals or whatever.
She's an Inhuman.
Yeah, no. She was originally
she's an Inhuman.
An Inhuman, but then they said because the Inhumans were like going nowhere in the MCU, and they were like, okay, well, now we have the X-Men, so let's make her an X-Men because she's super popular. And
to be fair,
the
Hulu series of the Inhumans was god awful, and it was because they were trying to stick far too much to the comic book material. I think if you watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and they did the Inhumans, I think they did it
a lot better. They did it a lot better.
A lot better. It wasn't perfect, but it was a lot better.
At least they explain like what the Inhumans are, and also like in their relation to the Kree.
Right.
And
is that Ramsay Bolton in the Inhumans? That Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones? Oh man.
Yeah,
that's also
that is Ramsay.
I see his face and I just don't like him.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Inhumans are. It's a weird story to tell.
Yeah.
And the reason like the MCU decided to like lean into the Inhumans is because like, well, we don't have the X-Men, so these will be our new X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But come on, you can't top the X-Men.
Yeah, right. And I mean, if they would have gone about the same route as Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it could have worked out better. But you can't take a comic book and throw it on the screen and expect audiences to love it. Because there's a difference between a comic book and a movie. Like, I don't know where the separation is, but I could read comic books that seem absolutely absurd. And if they put the exact same comic book, plate by plate on the screen, I'd be like, this is just awful. The things that they're saying is like, it's just terrible.
Yeah, and I'm also actually kind of pissed off about the Inhuman show because that kind of made them like abandon like all the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s characters at the same time.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
they did that show wrong. I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. didn't get the justice it deserved. It started off really good. And then
I think it ended well too. I mean,
I get the support it needed.
I know, and but like also like there was like so many like good Marvel characters that they put in the show,
and cameos were great, and they could have done so many different cameos.
They even did like some Daredevil references in there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A lot of, I mean, gosh, the show just was absolutely great once because it was airing when Winter Soldier came out.
Yeah.
And so you get like the whole revelation that that S.H.I.E.L.D. has always been like controlled by Hydra.
Yeah.
Spoilers.
Yeah, and then they dump
for a 10-year-old TV show.
Yeah, they jump underground, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was such a great show, and it was very underrated.
I don't know that I actually watched the last couple seasons of it. I think I never did finish the whole thing.
The last couple seasons are.
The thing that you're showing right now, Mike, looks like a trailer for the Green Mile. Oh wait, no,
yeah, it kind of does.
Walked in. Yeah.
They're just dressed all old timey. Don't worry, it's probably.
Well, no. Here's the thing: is like the last couple seasons they go back in time.
Yeah. That's kind of
like their jump the shark moment. It's like because they run into like when Infinity War is happening, and so they're just like, well, we don't know what to do with these Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. characters, so let's just send them back in time so nothing matters anymore.
Yeah.
And then they were in space for a season. Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, they were in space for a season, and I think they were on a Kree ship.
Oh my goodness! He just
or
took
something
that guy's
like
face
that.
off. He just erased his face.
Yeah. Wow.
Dang, Coulson. I love Coulson though. Oh, look at him with his Tommy gun. Yeah.
Anyway, for our listeners, if you haven't watched Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., it's a good watch.
Yeah,
it's just you know what? Even if you don't like Marvel, it's just good sci-fi too.
It really was. It really was. Yeah, definitely.
And Coulson is just such a great character, and his love of old timey like 007 type gadgets.
Yeah.
Just great. I know we've gone down a rabbit hole here, but one of my least favorite comic book movies that was an adaptation from the comics was Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah, I recently watched that one before Deadpool came out, and it was not great. It's not really great.
And Mike, you probably remember because I had that gold foil comic book of the Age of Apocalypse, and I'm sure you read it at least once. But
oh yeah,
they did do a pretty good Age of Apocalypse shout out in Deadpool.
Yeah, they did. They did.
Yeah, they did.
And like I still have them. The gold foil comic books of the Age of Apocalypse, and it is my absolute favorite. X-Men were my favorite growing up. I loved the X-Men. I was a nerd. I was an outcast, and so I loved the X-Men, and I loved the Age of Apocalypse. And I really felt nothing against any of the actors or actresses in that movie. I just feel like the script was just
it was just weak. It was kind of weak.
Yeah, and also the Age of Apocalypse could be a trilogy on its own.
Yeah, and the actors were, they were good, but it just seemed like they didn't even care. Like I thought, it's like Jennifer Lawrence seemed like.
Oh, she was definitely checked out by then.
What am I still doing here?
Yeah.
Also, hang on. You guys can keep talking. I just got to use the little boy's room.
No, okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and there were so many things that they could have done different. Like we didn't even meet Rogue in the movies.
Yeah.
Before
before that came along.
Well, they were doing the First Class. Like the First Class was the ones that met Apocalypse. Yeah. Well, I guess not, because Scott was there and Jean was there and we had Nightcrawler, but I mean we hadn't seen Rogue yet.
Yeah.
And Rogue is integral, and so is Magneto. Like Magneto saves the world in the Age of Apocalypse. Like he becomes Professor X.
Yeah. That's okay. We got X-Men 97 to cover all that. It's great.
Yeah, wonderful. Right. And I still need to finish that. Yeah. We've done
cartoon. Yeah, Rogue was great. Rogue's classic. They didn't really do her justice in the X-Men movies either. Anna Paquin's good.
Right.
The first one she was good, but then they just sort of squandered her for the rest of the movies. It's too bad.
And they really why did she have more of a Southern accent in True Blood than she did in the X-Men movies? Like Rogue is
for lost time, man.
Rogue is like down south. Like she's supposed to have. Welcome back. She's supposed to have that down south, accent.
Yeah.
And she didn't do it.
Hey man, right. if you're a fan of Rogue, then you'll love X-Men 97.
Yeah, man.
Rogue is all over that show.
Oh, I know. And for the listeners that don't know, if you remember the 90s version of the X-Men, Disney Plus put out would you consider it a sequel, a continuation to the original X-Men?
Yes, I consider it both of those things.
Okay.
Wait, which one?
X-Men 97.
X-Men 97.
It continues the story.
Yeah, it leaves off exactly where it ended.
Right. And so, the three of us, we have a lot of nostalgia attached to the X-Men from the 90s. But if you're listening now, do you start at 97 or do you start at the beginning?
Oh, just go through and watch the whole damn series again, man. It's great.
I think
anyway.
The way that
during dinner time.
The way that 97 starts is like you don't necessarily need to rewatch the original series because
You don't need to. You don't need
like
to.
yeah. The writing is actually really good, where they kind of like explain everything, like where everything left off. Like because I assume you know, Matt, that 97 starts off with Professor X is gone, and Cyclops is taken over as the new leader.
Right.
You know what would be fun? You could just watch the last episode of the original cartoon and then start, and that would be enough.
For like 2 seconds, I thought you were saying the first episode of the original, and I was like, no, that's not what happened. The first episode in the original is Jubilee's running away from some Sentinels.
Yeah,
that's the first episode. Yeah, that's the very first episode of the X-Men animated series. For those of you that have never seen it, go back and watch it. It's great.
That's awesome, and it's on Disney. You can just blow through the whole thing.
Disney Plus.
Like I did when I heard that they were making 97 like a couple years ago. I was just like, man, I'm just gonna.
Star Wars, X-Men, Disney sponsor this show.
Totally.
Yeah,
give us some of that Disney money.
Want some?
It's because they're just like buying up all of our childhoods.
Yeah, right.
Oh boy.